We're also talking today, like I mentioned, maybe you're thinking about becoming a parent, maybe you are one and you want to add to your family, and you can do just that by adopting a child through the Department of Social Services here in South Carolina. Joining us today to share more about that process is Connelly Ann Ragley. She is a communications director with DSS. Connelly Ann, thank you so much for being here.
Billie Jean, thank you for having us.
I appreciate it.
What a great afternoon.
I know. So, okay, we're going to do a little pop quiz with all of our guests.
Yes.
So be thinking about your answer. Are you team girl or team boy? And I'm going to ask you again at the end of the interview, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, Connelly Ann, DSS has for years promoted adoption. Let's just start with the basics. How is that helpful to families here in South Carolina and the children as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think first and foremost, we have to remember that DSS is charged with public adoption. And so these are children that are in the custody of the state of South Carolina. And while under state and federal law, our first option and our first path that we try to do is to resurrect and reunify that family and give them supports and services so that the children can be reunited with their families. Sometimes that's not always an option. And so, you know, we do have children available through DSS and through that public adoption realm at DSS. And just for a couple of data points, in 2022, so last calendar year, we finalized 575 adoptions in South Carolina. Already this year for 2023, we have finalized 123 adoptions. So there's definitely a need out there. At any given time, there are about 100 children that their parental rights have been terminated by a family court judge and that they are available for adoption.
And what is the process for adopting and how do you meet the qualifications?
Sure. So that is outlined on our website at dss.sc.gov. The first really big step is to express your interest and to fill out the form, complete that form, say, hey, I'm interested. I want to learn more. And that also applies for those that may be interested in becoming a foster parent. Maybe you're not ready to take that full foot pledge into being an adoptive resource for a family. Maybe it's you have a calling that you want to help and support a family in their time of need and their time of crisis, because foster care is meant to be temporary. So maybe that is the way that you go. So in visiting dss.sc.gov, we've got all that information on our child well-being tab, and it talks a little bit about the process. There are background checks, there are SLED fingerprint checks and the FBI background check that have to be completed, as well as health assessments and a fire and safety evaluation of your home. So while it can be overwhelming, we have to make sure that we are checking things out and you know, making sure that we're placing that child in a safe home, whether it's an adoptive placement or a foster family.
Definitely understand the extensive background check and the thoroughness, and I know it's appreciated to keep our children here in South Carolina safe.
Absolutely.
The benefits of adopting and becoming a foster parent. I know there are so many, but I know you've been doing this for years, so if you had to think of a few, what are some of the most rewarding stories you've heard?
Sure. So I think about families that have actually been here on Soda City Live with us and said, we were not planning to complete another adoption, but all of a sudden, you know, something changed and God called on our heart. And, you know, what better way to make a commitment of your time, your talents, your treasure, and your resources, and to give that child or that group of children permanency. To me, that is just, there's nothing better than that.
Well, Connelly Ann, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Any other points you would like to make about adopting in South Carolina and where people can go to find more information?
Sure. So like I said, dss.sc.gov is where you can get started on public adoption and learning more about it. That's something we've been working with the legislature on. We've just had a package of bills that were authored by the Speaker, Speaker Merle Smith of Sumter, that those passed the House this week. We're trying to maybe update and reform some of our legislation working there. But I would also remind folks that our greatest need is for teenagers, because they deserve that same love and affection as maybe a cute little infant or a toddler. So teenagers are our greatest need, as well as sibling groups, and as well as children that may have medical needs. Maybe it's just issues that they have, or maybe it's because of trauma that they have experienced or neglect. But those are our three groups that definitely are greatest need, and we just encourage South Carolinians to open their homes and their hearts.
Connolly Ann, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yes.
Great information. And we're going to pull up that full screen one more time to show you exactly where you can go to learn more about the adoption process here in South Carolina. Just go to DSS's website and you'll have all those details.